These are the notes for section 7.3, taxes and deductions. So here we're going to be looking at calculating EI, CPP, which is Canadian Pension Plan, and taxes based on gross pay. So the first thing we have to look at, what are all the deductions that come out of your gross pay? So we have Canadian Pension Plan, which is income that the government takes and is set aside for retirement. Now, often your employer has their own separate pension plan, but the government still takes a base amount so that everyone has some kind of pension when they retire. The way it's calculated is you take your gross pay and you minus a basic exemption, and then it's multiplied by the current year's rate, and it's only up to a maximum amount. Now, these amounts here are from 2017, and so they've probably changed slightly. However, the basic idea is the same. So if you make under $55,300, then you have to calculate your Canadian Pension Plan contribution. You take your gross pay, you subtract $3,500, and you multiply it by 4.95%. If you make over $55,300, then you just pay the maximum amount, which is $2,564.10. So you don't need to calculate it, you just use this maximum. The government also takes off employment insurance, which is income set aside in case of job loss. Okay. And it's calculated by gross pay multiplied by the current year's rate up to a maximum amount. So for EI, in 2017, the maximum amount was $51,300. So if you make under that amount, you take your gross pay and you multiply it by 1.63%. If you make over that amount, you just pay the maximum, which is $836.19. So that means even if you make $100,000 versus $52,000, your max EI is this, your max CPP is this, okay? And if you want to know the total, so for calculating later, if your pay is over, so if pay over 55300, then your EI and CPP together is $3,429. So just for ease of calculation, okay? You can keep that in mind. All right, so those are two deductions that come off of your paycheck. To be able to figure out your taxes, you also have to calculate your tax credits. Now, these are simplified tax credits. There are more things that can be used as tax credits when you actually do your real taxes. To calculate final taxes unless you paid, tax credits are subtracted after the taxes is calculated. Some tax credit must be subtracted are the federal personal amount, the employment credit amount, the BC personal amount, the however much you paid for CPP and EI. Those all come off as tax credits. Other things are if you pay union dues, any medical expenses after a certain amount. Those, if you contributed to a charity, those can come off as tax credits and reduce the amount of taxes you have to pay. But for our purposes, we're going to have the federal unemployment credit. So it's $11,635 and then $1,178. So in your workbook, sometimes they're listed separately, but there's no need to do that. We're just going to combine them together. So it means for federal, you can have $12,813 as the basic amount. And then in BC, the provincial amount is $10,207. So we add up all of our different tax credits and then we multiply the amount by 15% for federal taxes, and then you can subtract that from your taxes. For provincial, you add up all the different provincial tax credits, and then you multiply that rate by 5.06% and you subtract that from your taxes. In terms of how to calculate taxes, the Canadian tax system is a progressive system. In a progressive system, everyone pays the same tax rate up to the limit of the first tax bracket. If an income is greater than the limit of the first tax bracket, then the portion of the income over that tax bracket is taxed at the next rate until that limit has been reached. So what does that mean? So let's say you make $45,000. You're falling with, or less, you're falling within this first tax bracket. So you pay 15% on your taxes. Let's say you make $50,000. So for the first $45,916, you pay 15%. It's only the amount that's over $45,916, okay? Just that amount, so like that approximately $4,000 that are greater, do you pay 20% or 20.5% on. You don't pay, you don't like jump up in tax bracket and then pay 20% on your whole salary, okay? It's only the amount that falls over that bracket. And so on until you get all the way up to over 200,000, and then you're paying 33% federal tax, and even if you make $1 million, you're still paying 33% tax on that amount of money. Okay, so if we calculate each of these brackets, so you would have, okay, let's say you make $100,000. So for this amount, the first chunk of your money that falls in this bracket, you would pay 15%, and this table already has the amounts calculated. So if you have this much salary at 15%, the amount is here, the maximum amount, okay? So you pay $6,887.40 in tax. Next percent, so you're making 100,000, so you're over this 91, so again, you're gonna pay the max. Now the 100,000 falls within here. So you're going to take the 100,000, subtract what you've already paid. So take out 91,831 out of there. So you have about eight or 9,000 left. That 8 or 9,000 gets multiplied by 26% to find out how much you pay in that tax bracket, and then you add it up with these other ones. And you subtract your tax credits. The BC provincial tax amount, so federal taxes are always higher than provincial taxes. Here, the tax brackets are a little smaller. So notice that this one's up to 45, this one's only up to 38, okay? Here, the max rate is a little over 100. Then you're paying the most, which is 14.7%. Okay, same thing, the maximums for each bracket are over here. Okay, so that's a lot of information. Let's take a look at doing some questions with this. And you might want to have this page next to you when you're working on questions for this section. So this first question says, determine the amount of CPP and EI to be paid on $37,000 and on $60,000. So we'll start with our $37,000. Okay, so CPP. Now, $37,000 is less than our rate, our maximum rate. So that means that we're going to need to calculate it. So we're going to take our salary, 37. I'm going to make this a bit bigger. And we're going to subtract our deduction, 3,500. Okay. So this is our gross pay that we have from the question. And this is the deduction you're allowed for CPP, okay? And then we're going to multiply it by 0.0495. Now, this is all listed up here in the CPP box, which you can look at while you're doing the questions. So this is the rate. And when we do that, we get $1,658.25. So if you make $37,000, you're going to be paying this much for CPP. Next, EI. So EI, there's no deductions. We're just going to take our gross salary and we're going to multiply it by the rate for EI, which is 163. And when we do that, we get $1,603.01. Okay, and you can double check. Oh, that doesn't seem right. Maybe there's not supposed to be a 1 in front. It's just 6. Let me just double check. Whoops. Oh, I know why. Whoops, my mistake. I'm missing a 0 here because it's 1%. So 37000 times 0.0163. Yes, okay. There's no 1 in front. It's just $603.01. Okay, so this is my CPP amount, and this is my EI amount for 37. Next, we want to know the same on 60,000. Well, 60,000 is over the max for both CPP and EI. So if we go look up here, we have a 55,300 for CPP and we have a 51,300 for EI. So it's over both. So that means we're going to use the max rate. So the max rate for CPP was $2,564.10. The max rate for EI is $836.19. Okay, so now we found the CPP and EI for both of those. Next question says, calculate the federal and provincial tax credits on $40,000. So to be able to calculate the tax credits, first we need to figure out CPP and EI. So our step 1 is to do CPP and EI. So 40,000 is less than our threshold of 55,000. So it means we have to calculate it. So CPP, we're going to do 40,000. And then we're going to subtract our deduction, so 3,500, and multiply it by our rate, 0.0495. And when we do that, we get $1,806.75 for CPP. For EI, there's no deduction, so we're just going to take 40,000 and multiply it by our rate for EI, which is 0.0163. And we get $652. We're going to add those two up, okay, for a total of $2,458.75. So that's our CPP and EI. Next, we can figure out the federal tax credit. Okay, so the federal tax credit, if we go back up here, says that we can take our basic amount, which is here, and then we're going to add in any other deductions, which is our CPP, or our employment and our CPP EI, and we're going to multiply it by 15%. So we have 12,813 plus our total here for CPP and EI, 2458.75, and we're going to multiply that by our rate, 0.15. So this was the Fed credit, and this was CPP/EI, and this is our rate. And when we do that, multiply those together, we get 2,290.76. So that's our federal tax credit. We also need our provincial tax credit. Okay, so the provincial tax credit, you're going to take the BC basic amount, which is $10,207, and you're going to add your CPP EI, 2458.75, and you're going to multiply it by your provincial rate, 0.0506. Okay, so this is the Prov credit. This is still CPP and EI. This is our rate for provincial. When we do that, we get $6.40.89. So this is our federal tax credit and our provincial tax credit on $40,000. So this is how much we would subtract from our taxes. The next question says, determine the amount of federal and provincial taxes on $70,000. And for these ones, we're going to ignore tax credits. We're just going to figure out the taxes before we take off any tax credits. So for our federal taxes, we're going to need that table from the beginning. So 70,000, we have to see where it's going to fall in here. So 70,000 falls inside the second bracket. So that means we're going to be using the max amount for the first bracket. So we're going to be taking this for our max amount for the first bracket. Then we're going to remove 45,916 because it's already been taxed in the first bracket. And whatever's left, we're going to tax at 20.5%. So let's do that. So we have 6,887.4. Okay, that's our max from bracket 1. So the first bracket, bracket 1 max. Okay, and then we're going to add. So we have 70,000. And we're going to take away our 45,916, which is already taxed in the first bracket. And we're going to multiply it by our tax rate, 0.205. Now feel free to calculate this separately and then just add the two answers together if you want to. Okay, this will get you bracket 2. And this is the rate for bracket 2. I'm going to do them all in one step so I don't have as much writing down to do. And here I get 11,824 and 62 cents. So that's my second rate, or that's my federal taxes. Then for my provincial taxes, I need to go back to my chart. So remember I have 70,000. So it's over the first bracket, so it's falling in the second bracket again. So for my first bracket, we're going to use the maximum amount. For the second bracket, we're going to subtract this amount out, and whatever's left, we're going to multiply by this rate. All right, so the max for the first bracket is 1968.24. So this is the provincial bracket 1 max. Okay, make sure you're using the provincial table when you're doing provincial taxes. We have our base salary of 70,000, and we're going to subtract the max from bracket 1, so 3,898, and we're going to multiply it by provincial rate for bracket 2, 777, and so this is bracket 2, and this is our rate, and when we multiply those together, we get 4,363.09. So this is our total provincial taxes. All right. So our final question, we want to do the total tax payable on 90,000. So this means now we're taking into account our tax credits as well, and we want to add everything up at the end, having removed the tax credits. So we're doing the whole thing. So the first step, we need to calculate CPP and EI. Now, because this is a large salary, 90,000, it's over the max. So we just have the max. So that means we're going to be paying $3,429 because it's over the max. So next we're going to do our federal tax credits. So we're going to do federal. So we have the credits first. Fed tax credit. Okay. So remember, for our tax credits, we need to take our federal basic amount, so 12,813, and we're going to add our CPP and EI, 3,400.29, and we're going to multiply it by our federal rate for tax credits, which is 15%. Okay, so this is the federal basic credit. This is Cpp/Ei, and this is our rate for tax credits. And we're going to get an amount of 2431.99. Next, we're going to look at our federal taxes. So we have 90,000. So we need to go up to our table and we need to find 90,000. So 90,000 is still going to fit right inside this bracket. So that means that we're going to take this max, then we're going to subtract out this amount, whatever we have left, multiply by here. If we were up in a higher bracket, we would take this max, and then do the same thing with whatever bracket we were at. All right, so we have 68874, and that's our bracket 1. And then we're going to add our 90,000 minus 45916. We're going to multiply it by our rate, 0.205. And next, a new step here is we need to remove our tax credit. Okay, so the tax credit that we calculated here gets subtracted from the amount of taxes you pay, 2431.99. So this is bracket 2, and this is our tax credit. And when we do that, I don't really have enough space here, I'll write it over here. We get 13,492.63 cents. So this is the amount of federal taxes that we're paying. So then our step 3 is we need to figure out provincial. So we need to do the provincial tax credit. So our provincial tax credit, we take our BC basic, so 10,207, and we add our Cpp Ei amount that we have. So in this case, again, it's still max. And we multiply it by our provincial tax credit rate, 0.0506. And here we get 688.53. So that's our tax credit. So this is our BC credit, Cpp Ei, and our BC rate. Okay. Next, we're going to do our provincial taxes. So our salary is 90. So we need to look at our table. So here we're over the first bracket, so we're going to use our max. We're over the second bracket, so we're going to use our max. And we're over the third bracket actually, so we'll use our max here as well. And we're within this fourth bracket. So for the fourth bracket, we'll subtract this, which has been taxed in the other 3 brackets, this amount, and we'll multiply what's left by our rate. Okay. No, that's not the right question. Here we go. So we have 1968.24 for bracket 1. That's a max amount. 2995.22 for bracket 2. That's the max amount. 209.92 for bracket 3, the max amount. Now bracket 4, we have to do 90,000 minus 89320 times our rate. Oops, running out of space. Let's make this smaller. Our rate here is 0.1229. Okay, and then we're going to subtract our tax credit, which is what we calculated here, 688.53. So let's label everything. So this is our bracket 1, bracket 2, bracket 3, bracket 4. So this whole thing is bracket 4. And this is our tax credit, which we subtract. And when we do that, we get $5,568.42. So that's our total provincial taxes. And then they want to know total tax payable. So that we need to add up our federal tax, which was $13,492.63, and our provincial tax, $5,568.42. Add those two together and we get $19,061.05. So this is our final answer for total tax. And now you can do the homework for this section.